Welcome to Mortgage Sales Playbook. I'm Pat Sherlock, your host. My podcasts are where top producers, sales leaders, and industry experts share strategies that drive real sales success. No fluff, just actionable insights to help you master the art of selling and leading. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, the senior age in management in mortgage lending and the failure to innovate. And I have the great expert in all of this topic, Andrew Panagos, and he is president of Go Mortgage, long career within mortgage banking, highly successful, active with the MBA. So I'm thrilled to talk to you about this because this is such an important topic. But I have to jump forward and ask, how did you get into our business? And tell me what trends you're saying before we talk about the main topic.
Pat, wonderful to be here with you. Thank you for having me. Always wonderful to talk about things with you and with the rest of the organization and the industry. I am an accident. Like, I don't think anybody goes to college for mortgage, right? None of us have a BA in mortgage or an MBA in mortgage. I am an accidental mortgage recruit. I was young, obviously. I had just gotten done with college, was going to go to law school, decided not to, which my parents were thrilled about. And I actually was sort of loafing and teaching tennis and being a bum, frankly. And at the time, my family, my mom in particular, forced me into a bank job with a regional bank that existed back in the day in the Northeast called Fleet Bank. And I swear it's just serendipitous. Instead of the bank job being one that they moved me into, they needed help in their mortgage area, which I couldn't even spell at 23 years old or whatever I was. And they stuck me in a, you'll love this, Pat. They stuck me in a chair. They said, "Hey, you're going to help us out in mortgage. We're swamped." This was the early 90s refi wave that come through. And I'm dating myself, right? And there was no computer on my desk. They dropped this, what I can only, describe to you as a Bible-sized manual of how to process a loan, and said, "Hey, read that for a couple days." And in 6 months, I had 212 loans in my pipeline as a processor and got the bug, frankly. Really loved the business, and mostly because I didn't know anything about anything and I just kept absorbing knowledge. So yeah, I started accidentally in this business. And as much as I've said, and you've said in your career, and everybody that will watch this said in their career, I really should do something else. You can't get out. You can't get out. And
True.
I never left. After 30 years, just about, I never left. I'm still here.
Well, talk about some trends before we talk about the main topic that you see in the marketplace. I know everyone's wishing for refi market, but talk about the issue of trends that lenders should be addressing than aren't addressing.
Yeah, look, refinance business is out there. It's more tactical. It's more strategic. It's certainly debt consolidation. But I think my opinion on this, and it's well documented, right, is I just don't see the refi, even if a wave of lower rates happens, the servicers are at such an advantage right now between the new mortgage trigger legislation, which they still get triggers and most of us don't, that don't have big servicing books, and the fact that their technology and technology in general is so great with monitoring their portfolios. They have such an advantage to hang on to borrowers that for those of us who service released a lot, needing cash over the last few years, the refi boom for a typical IMB is not a boom. It's going to be a little bit of help, right? And so from my perspective, government, streamlines will be in vogue and debt consolidation, but these easy churned rate and term refis are not coming for the IMBs. So you've got all the geopolitical stuff happening, which is it's so difficult to prognosticate where we're headed. You've got the Fed and the administration at each other's throats at this point. So to me, the trend is pretty simple. Property value is eroding around the country a little bit. Market's down a little bit from a real estate perspective. And I think the market will start to turn a little bit toward the buyer. But we are dealing with an artificially created market because of quantitative easing and COVID. And the market sort of got to flush this out a little bit for a while. So I think really no big turnaround until 26, where we start seeing some actual gains in the market. And so for me, at least my perspective is, as a lender these days, you really have to take your time now and make the changes and the gains and the strategic imperatives in your company now. Get lean, get smart, stay status quo to take advantage of what I think is going to be the start of the recovery next year. So, from my perspective, there's no silver bullet. It's not coming. It's
Yeah.
not coming. So
No,
just
I,
time to be smart.
I think you're right in all the phases that you talked about. But let's talk about what I loved about your post that you put on LinkedIn, where you talked about the age of senior leadership within
Yep.
mortgage lending and
Yep.
the failure of innovation. It's interesting from my viewpoint. I just did a post the other day on LinkedIn also where I asked what were the reasons with our challenges. And I listed weak management, outdated technology, and the wrong sales talent. And they all selected weak leadership and wrong sales talent. Nobody selected outdated technology. And when I saw your post, I thought this really hits at the
Wow.
home that we're
Wow.
talking about some fundamental issues. So talk about your thoughts and what you're saying about the senior leadership and the age issue.
Look, I think that post was fun. We talked about this privately. It got a little got a little fun with some spirited conversations. I'm reflective of that post, right? I am
So
30
me
years
too.
in. I help lead an organization, and we have all had success in this business
Right.
with certain strategic thoughts, planning, how we see the business. And as whether anybody likes it or not, the business is evolving around us. And what worked 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago is just not where the business is headed. And it is scary, in my opinion, right? If you're a senior executive or an owner in particular, and you've had amazing success through the course of your career, and particularly we're talking about IMBs, cash
Hmm.
businesses. We
Hmm.
understand the IMBs that have massive servicing portfolios, which is brilliant. But if you're a mid-size IMB and you've had great luck over the years riding the waves, right, and making
Hmm.
sure
Hmm.
that you're doing a little bit of improving in your LOS, which we all know the beast that is everybody's LOS, and you're doing all these things, it's really hard for somebody that's been that ingrained and seen the market shifts and take advantage of them to say, yeah, you know what, we really need to just completely disrupt our business. It's brutally difficult. And frankly, the proof is in the pudding. Just look around. But there's very few that are innovating or taking on innovation in a way that's really meaningful and at high velocity. They're nibbling at it, right? Hey, maybe
Hmm.
we can automate
Right.
this or we can automate that. But I just don't see it that way. And I think everybody at the top of the house looks like me, Pat. They don't, I remember, being 35 and 30 and having my hair on fire and wanting to change everything and try everything. And we don't have a lot of young folks saying, I really want to be a mortgage banker. I really want to get into the business. It's a terrible story to try and sell to a young, brilliant, smart person to get into this thing.
So, Andrew, in other words, one of my theories is, and I'm curious for your thoughts
Mhm.
on it, is that we've always dated, or we always have lynched everything to change would happen because of we would be installing technology.
That's right.
And when it comes really down to it, I think some of the fundamentals of the industry are really have been broken for a long time. And you posted, which I was thought was fabulous and scary at the same time. 66% of the originators are over age 50.
Yep.
And that's not your data. That's not my data. That's just, in essence, numbers. And so when you don't have young people at that point, you're also not going to have young leaders. I mean, at some point, you're just not going to have it. And you just go to any of the conferences, and really the conferences are really a lot of white haired people. And so, not to say that's not cool, but we're just saying we're talking about this risk level as you get older does seem to get less. And so,
No
what
question.
I mean, is the issue that the leadership really isn't is a function of not having young people come in as a loan officer and then therefore they don't go to that next step as you did?
Yes, the short answer is yes, right? When I entered the business, I started out in operations. I moved quickly into sales,
Mhm.
and at that point, I'm proud to say that I was one of the pilot folks for DU down, we had to get flown down to Atlanta, Georgia, and there was no integration, right? You had to manually type things.
Yeah.
Fanny's DU. That was a huge step forward for the business, right? And
Hmm.
we embraced it like crazy. Today, the fact that that percentage, that 66% that you talked about in that age group over 50, again, that's a group of folks that have been trained and indoctrinated in their own experience and in their training, whether that's core,
Right.
whether that's, whatever system they use, that this works for me and has worked through the waves of the market.
Hmm.
It is real hard, right? To disrupt them completely and say, hey, I need you to get into social media. I
Hmm.
need you to take on technology at the point of sale. And wow, that's scary. Listen, I don't have a Facebook account, Pat. I'm one of those. Like I don't have time. I don't have time to catch up. But truly, if I was in sales, I mean, we have really good young LOs where about 30% of their business is social media driven. That's a big chunk of business. And it's examples like that where if we can't get folks excited to be in the business, it's a complicated business, Pat. You and I know that. It's
Sure.
regulated
Hmm.
to heck, right? It's complicated. The products aren't cut and dry. The underwriting's sort of subjective at times. I believe you to get a young person into the business the right way in sales, you've got to give them the tools to leverage what they do well, which is hopefully sell, and then give them support through tech, through online resources, self-help, and people to sort of get comfortable with the business as they grow into it. And it's very hard to pluck somebody off the street these days, put them down like in the old days, Pat. Hey, take donuts, go to the realtor's offices,
Yes.
get business. That's not here.
Hmm.
It doesn't exist anymore. So look, I think I feel strongly about young people today are on their phones all the time, are on apps.
Right.
They like to see things. They want transparency. They want information at their fingertips. And so why are we different as an industry? We're not. We need to give them that immediate gratification at the front end of the process with a ton of support through tech and people where they can get into the business and immediately feel successful and drive their own sort of
Hmm.
referral networks of just going after realtors these days isn't the way into the business. So it's hard when 2/3 of the business is indoctrinated and has been in it for so long. It's just not that system isn't going to work for the 25-year-old today. Just not going to happen.
So it's not really, Andrea, from your viewpoint, the age of the senior leadership. It's really a difference in that selling itself has changed. And so therefore, what you learned even 5 years ago is really not relevant today because it's much faster and certainly a whole different world. And so it's the age part, I think, becomes somewhat of we cite that, but really the issue is that that world doesn't exist anymore. And we need, because you can have older executives that are state of the art people that really are adjusted.
100%.
Then you have the others that just will refuse to do it. And so ultimately, is the model itself broken? Is I guess what we really are asking, because you have to compensate to bring in new people. That costs money. You have to develop them. And the whole compensation of the loan officer is predicated on, hey, that's your problem. If you want to develop yourself, I'm giving you a margin. So,
That's exactly the issue, right?
right.
As I said at the beginning of this, and I think you and I are lockstep in this, the
Straight
business itself.
has changed.
I love the 11,000 cost of originate thing. Those are just numbers, right?
Right.
And they're variable. At the end of the day, what the business is changing around us because the
Hmm.
consumer is demanding it a different way. And
Correct.
I firmly believe I know I have younger nephews in their, early 30s, late 20s, and they're not interested in this. I want to build a trusted advisor relationship with a loan officer. They don't trust a loan officer. They trust I can Google rates today and I can
Right.
see what everybody's offering. And they trust transparency and internet lead and data. And I'm not saying that's everybody, but you can feel the shift happening under your feet if you really think about it. And you've got some owners, especially, right? Former salespeople, by the way, most
Sure. Hmm.
super successful that are either at the end of a run or thinking about the next
Yeah.
step, right? And is the last thing they want to do, to flip the business upside down one last time. Yeah, I mean that's a sticking point. The business is shifting underneath us, whether we like it or not. And it's headed toward, what I think is a more slick funnel, letting a borrower get into that funnel any way they want to, and having the
Mhm.
tools and technology to support it any way they want to. So to your point, it's less about age and more about habit and the work and the money that it takes to flip this upside down and really restart it. And some of us are working on it, and some of us are sort of waiting for the next refi wave, and we'll see what.
So Andrew, what's the choice as an executive? Obviously,
Mhm.
acquisition. Okay, let's go acquire young people.
Yes,
I mean, that's basically the bank strategy.
that's the
When
bank
they
strategy. Yeah,
that's yeah, when they go and let's bring in somebody that's a younger group, a
right,
fintech company, and so forth.
right.
Or we're left where we have to develop them.
Yep,
And I pondered this thought all the time because, as you well know, the industry has not really done that. And
yep,
so the only strategy that I think is viable is something that I've been working on, which is the senior executive or the senior loan officer successful does want to exit the business. And so it always comes down to who's going to fund that new person. Maybe our strategy needs to look a lot like the insurance industry, where we tie these people together. The one person has an exit plan where we give X amount of money over a certain length of time, and then that funds while the other person takes over. That's the only way I could see it being, in essence, kind of changing the dynamics. What are your thoughts on that? Because no one really, when you say rookies and all that, they don't really want to invest in them.
no, they really don't. Look, that's a wonderful idea. It's almost like an earn-out strategy
An earnout
in an
strategy,
M&A,
yeah,
right? M&A transaction. I think that's fabulous. I also think we're entering a zone over the next 10 years where it's going to be just as important to get to the borrower and not the realtor.
I agree. Agree.
And so strategically, what are young people comfortable with?
Hmm.
Inherently more comfortable than us. Video.
Right.
They have no problem building rapport through video, which, I mean, statistically, you look at it, I know for me, it's absolutely the truth. A candid video, short, quick, is much more impactful via text than any email campaign, drip campaign, or anything else the
Correct.
CRMs do. Social media that we mentioned before. You like and follow and comment and trust people that is outside of the, oh, wait a minute, this is a cold call. You want to come to my office? Uh,
Yeah.
get to know somebody, establish some rapport, and social media is a wonderful vehicle, right? But they still need help in developing those strategies. So I love the earnout idea. And then I love within that idea, or just recruiting newer folks, sort of reimagining how do you go get the business, right?
Correct.
It can't just be the same old referral sources, CPAs, attorneys. It has to, the borrower, it has to be a full
Hmm.
scoped way for new loan officers to penetrate the market and gain some traction. To your point, how do we transition the old LOs who really want to leave the business behind, want to hand it
Correct.
over, but still get paid a little bit on the way out?
Yeah. Right.
And then couple that with a technology that's pushed to the front to the salesperson. And I mean, when I mean push to the front, I mean, we're not going to give away the secret sauce here, but I think loan officers can essentially through AI can pretty much get a conditional approval on their own. They don't need an underwriter anymore. For about
Right.
65, 70% of the business, we're doing that today,
Correct.
right?
Yeah. Right.
So you couple all these things together, and I think your earnout idea is spectacular. You can sort of start transitioning your business into more of a modern, leaner, by the way, much less people supporting some of these initiatives and a lot more tech, and everybody wins. And I think to your point, we've got to find a way to bridge from me, right? That
Right.
level
Hmm.
executive, whether it's sales or ops, to we've got to create that bridge to the next group of folks that are going to do it. And that's what that thought of being ambidextrous, right? Doing what we do today to the best way we can do it, but also in the other hand, at the same time, how are we bridging to the future? How are we disrupting the business? How are we trying new things? How are we making sure that we're keeping up with the market shifting under our feet? So I didn't say it was easy, but I think you're spot on. You got to build a bridge between the two.
Right. And you also, Andrew, really, and this is the part that I kind of try to grapple with, is that our basic model is hire more loan officers and we'll get more volume.
You're
And I
always
think, and I think that model is fundamentally changed. It's
it is.
less people, but better people. And that's a model that really doesn't exist in our world. It's pretty much, let's bring them all on. X% won't make it, and then we keep bringing, we're stuck in that model where we're trying to answer everything by more people, when I think it's less people but better people that are actually tech savvy, as you're talking about. As an example, because I teach prospecting, and the type of student that I see that does work, that does success quickly, are students that are either from the military, those people that
Mhm.
have discipline. I see a lot of tech people, software people. They do this video stuff very quickly. So we can transition faster than we think, but
Yep.
it's a mindset that we're stuck with. Well, it takes 5 years before you can learn the mortgage world.
It's patently untrue anymore.
Right.
In the
I
old days,
agree.
for sure, you needed seasoning, right? That's just simply untrue. And I agree with your premise of, do you want 3,000 LOs who do
Yes.
250,000 a month? Or do
Yeah.
you want to take your trusted core people who you know are talented, who
Right.
work hard, who are loyal to the organization, and then give them tons of tools and tons of training? I would rather see them be more successful themselves, and in turn, the organization is more successful with
Correct.
less folks in general, ops and sales.
Correct.
I don't think anymore it's grab every LO you possibly can, no matter what. And it's a drain on the org. It just is. It doesn't matter if they do one loan a month. It is a drain on the organization to support that many folks. And to your point, the people you invest in that are already disciplined and already doing the things that are
Correct.
necessary, they're much more likely to double and triple their business than just grabbing 1,000 LOs who may or may not do a loan next month. So I completely agree with you. I think that's the path to success moving forward.
No, I agree with that. I see it every day.
Yeah.
And I do think where training gets a bad name is that people that get dumped into those types of programs are people that actually aren't matched for selling. And the mystery of life to me is that, why don't we address that? In essence, what Ingenious tells us is that the bottom 50% only do 8% of the production. I mean, that's just the facts. And so
Numbers.
why do we keep these people? Because they're not matched for our business, and lenders still hold on to them and are very wary about removing them.
It's interesting. We've really shifted over the last few years a pretty rigorous personality assessment for folks. And
Hmm.
I I want to use every tool I can think of to get the folks that are disciplined and have a
Yeah.
sales driven mentality. We will take care of the rest. We will give them the training, the tech, the tools. Because at the end of the day, if you're a loan officer and you're doing a loan every, couple of months, basically,
Hmm.
you're not really a loan officer.
Hmm.
You're not really a salesperson, right? You're tripping and falling over a deal here and there. And to your point, pick the right people, invest in them, you know, drive their success through all the innovation and things that we're all trying to do at this point, and they will stay and they will be loyal and they will help drive the company and give them a voice. You don't need a small to mid IMB. You don't need 5,000 loan officers. You need a core group of really engaged ones that want to do this with their business, right? They want the funnel to open up a little. And I agree with you. I think we keep missing the boat with, cut that group a check and get them in here because volume. It's
Right.
not about volume, it's about profitability.
I agree. It seems such a basic, and it just seems that we seem to overvalue what really isn't as relevant. And so, is it any surprise that so many lenders are not profitable? So, we covered a lot today, Andrew. I could talk to you for hours about this. So, talk about a couple, or share with the listeners a couple
Yeah.
of practices or takeaways for today about the step in the right direction of how do we start fixing this, and how do we get everything on the table. There shouldn't be any sacred cows anymore,
No,
yeah, in this business. So what are your thoughts on that?
no. Yeah, I think the hot topic with the age discussion, right, is always technology. And And I tell organizations this because look, we all collaborate. There's no dirty secrets here, Pat, anymore, right?
No,
We're all
true.
the same products and basically processes. And what I tell people is, look, tech doesn't drive the process or the strategy.
Mhm.
You establish the strategy and who you are as a company, and then go find the tech that fits and
Mhm.
get in the pool slowly, right? RPAs and bots are easy. Automating tasks that help the loan officer, like disclosures, are not that hard and not that scary. And so from a tech perspective, develop the strategy, find the tech that fits. Don't go get the tech because it's sexy and everybody's talking about it. It's not how it works. And then two, from a leadership perspective, whether it's sales or at the top of the house, honestly, I try desperately to surround myself with folks who are even contrarian to me. Make the decision at the top of the house. It is time to move the needle in a little bit of transformation of the organization. Some of us are going to go faster than others because we're a little nutty, and some of us won't. But staying pat, I think, as an executive team, you're what you're asking for is you're a dinosaur waiting for the meteor to hit. It's just a question of when it's going to, and you're going to have to sell or shut it down. It doesn't, I mean, at a mid-size IMB, there's not a lot of room for error. So those are the two pieces of advice. If you do those two things and you recruit the right kind of originator at the ground level, and you're dedicated to doing things a little differently, like we talked about with social and some of the other
Mhm.
things, and that earnout strategy, which is brilliant, by the way, Pat. I'm going to steal that and give you credit for it. I think we need to. I think you've got to make a commitment to it. You can't dabble. You've got to really decide it's time. And if that means a sale, a partnership, a merger, whatever, then so be it. But for me, from a sales perspective, if I was a loan officer today and I wanted to get out, I would definitely do the earn out strategy. I would hand it over
Mhm.
over the course of time. But if I was just an LO in the middle of my career right now, the market's not coming back to you. It's
No,
we're not going to be
no.
2020, 2003 ever again. And so you've got to commit. You're either in it or you're out, and you got to commit to do things that probably make you a little uncomfortable right now, like video and social. And so
So,
that's the best advice I give our people.
so, Andrew, how can our listeners get a hold of you to continue the chat? Because this is an important discussion.
Oh my God, they can yell at me in lots of different ways, Pat. They can find me on LinkedIn, which I would be thrilled to connect with anyone that wants to have a discussion. They can obviously I post a lot, so they can yell at me that way. They can DM me. They can certainly email me or call me. Either way, I love these discussions with our industry colleagues, and I think people are brilliant. And when you get them all together in sort of collective intelligence, the magic happens. So always available.
Well, Andrew, I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom today because I think it's been fabulous. I have to have you come back because these are, I think, the crucial questions that we're not really asking a lot. We haven't really asked them enough, and we haven't certainly, a lot of what's getting really shared is really repetitive strategies that didn't work before. So now we're still doing them.
Definition of insanity, Pat.
Yeah,
Definition of
yeah, for
insanity.
sure. So I want to thank you for sharing and certainly thank our listeners. Certainly every Monday we have a new podcast and certainly register and subscribe. We'd love to have you with us. So thanks so much, Andrew.
Pat, thank you very much. Keep doing the great work.
That's a wrap for this episode. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your team. Want more proven sales strategies? Visit patsherlock.com for expert resources, coaching, and sales training. Until next time, keep selling smarter and not harder.